Okay.
Go ahead.
Daniel, thank you
Yep.
very much. The floor is yours.
All
Can
right.
everyone
Thank
see
you.
the slides, first of all?
Yep. They're all
Yep.
good.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Nice meeting everyone this afternoon. Again, Brenda gave a good intro to me. Today is just to talk about and give you an introduction of not only what OTA, CSOs, and BA contract types are about and how to utilize them, but also what the government is now directing all the agencies to do with these type of contract vehicles. I'm also going to talk about how companies and the government can leverage and how to prepare to start leveraging these more as they move forward, and in general, just to be able to help improve improve business growth as you start leveraging these type of contract vehicles. Next slide. So just my background a little bit deeper. Been in working the federal government in the last 30 years. Spent the first 6 years in the United States Navy. Then I transitioned to SAIC, working on site at the Defense Intelligence Agency doing day-to-day work. But at the same time, I was the first person to be a proposal manager in the section that I was working at. And 5 years later, grew the business to 30 people, and SAIC said, hey, you can only do one or the other. You can't do both a business and also support the agency on the day-to-day. So decided to jump to the government level, and then over those last 20 years, focus more on executing IT contracts, developing applications on the engineering side, and I was lucky enough to spend a couple of years as the innovation officer at DIA at the director headquarter level to start leveraging OTAs, which involved us working on a day-to-day basis with DIUX. And I'll kind of explain the importance of that as it goes forward. And I participated in many SSEB level boards, SSACs, so I have a good understanding of obviously the proposal management process, so forth. So just give you a background. I have a good background on the commercial side, doing the business proposal pieces, but also on the government side. So I think I bring a unique flavor of being able to know how to do both on both sides and how it comes together. Next slide. So what are OTAs, CSOs, BAs? They're not new. They've been around for 30, 40 years. I'm just going to break it down simple. They can be more complex. An OTA, other transactional agreement. Look at that as a very flexible, non-FAR type of agreement where government agencies can do things pretty quickly to be able to execute agreements between one company and another to focus on pilots. So look at OTA as that kind of transactional authority agreement. They can have vehicle mechanisms, and I'll explain some of that as we go forward. Look at CSO as that basic mechanism to exercise that OTA authority. Usually there'll be calls or problems that come out, and they'll ask you to address those specific problem sets. And these are the more popular ones that are coming out now more often than not, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more detailed. And then the BAs are the traditional, more older, mostly focused on R&D efforts, academia. They're a little bit more restrictive, but just want to touch upon those because sometimes these three can kind of intermingle at times, the processes, how they have some agencies use kind of both, and then they'll exercise the CSO, the OTA authority that they set up. When you see these three type of vehicles, this is what I'm kind of talking about of trying to move forward. These three vehicles, in essence, are ways to be able for the government to do research, prototyping. They can do some production, and I'll talk about that. They are mostly for non-traditional, but you'll see they do use traditional companies as well, especially the CSOs. And the goal here is to rapidly test and deploy new technologies, not just technologies, but new ideas. It can be process, policy. That's one of everybody thinks of the tangible tool, application, software, capability, so forth. But it could be a variety of things of just trying to do something new to make the government more efficient, effective, save money, execute quicker, and you'll see some of that. Foster any of the innovation ideas that are out there. The goal here is really trying to touch base with companies that they traditionally don't touch or talk to because the current acquisition process is very bureaucratic, very timely, and small businesses have a struggle to leverage that because in a year or two they could be out of business. A lot of these, especially the BAAs, will have generic requirements that you'll see that you can submit all day. You can see that in some of the examples that are out there on sam.gov now. I'll just use DIA as one example. They have generic problem sets. You submit a white paper and you start that process going forward. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And then the urgency. So the goal of these is not to focus on sustainment efforts, operational, surging. It's not about putting people in seats. It's about bringing in new capabilities in order to improve the efficiency of the government and how they do business, how they deliver capabilities to the warfighter quicker, sooner, and so forth. Just a little bit about, DIUX. This was an organization that started up in, I think, 2015 timeframe, and they started going through this process of using OTAs, right? And so, and they actually started with BA, then merged to an OTA. And one of the things they came up with was an issue was after you did a pilot and they went through the process, gave a company X amount of dollars, and it was successful. The problem was they would still in the acquisition system still have to go openly compete that, even though they just proved it out, it was successful. They want that, so they still had to go through the acquisition process. So in 2016-17 timeframe, they actually went to acquisition leadership and had them change the OTA writing, where it now allows a CSO to execute a 5-year sole source contract to these pilots if they were successful, up to $100 million. And if you don't think that works today, I will tell you, I'm working with a company now that just got awarded one. Just let you know that a company that I'm working with just got awarded one for nearly $100 million for the next 5 years of an OTA and a pilot that they projected. So it does work. It does happen. And I'll tell you why it's important to start paying attention to this now. Next slide. So why are they important today for you? Vice, that they've been around for 30, 40 years, is the resurgence of Department of Defense becoming Department of War. Everything that they're doing right now, you'll see, and you can check LinkedIn, you can do searches, it's very easy, it's all out there. They are trying to reshape the acquisition process. They're making serious changes right now. They're in the middle of writing and rewriting the agreements process for not only OTA CSOs, but the whole acquisition process. They're even calling it a different name. It's no longer the defense acquisition system. It's the warfighter acquisition system. So you just tell by the wording, the ethos of what they're leveraging. It's all about urgency, trying to get things through our processes faster. And obviously acquisition has been a huge challenge over the years. If our acquisition process is nothing but urgent and fast, as we all know, right? How many times are we sitting for months and months waiting for something to come out, getting something awarded? I bet on that side. I've done it. Some of those people are frustrated as well when it takes so long, because then it takes them having to do extensions, having them to move money around to keep the current team until they get the award out. It causes a lot of challenges on both ends. The goal that what the Department of War has set out is they specifically, and they wrote a memo just in the last month stating they want federal government agencies and the military agencies to leverage OTAs, CSOs as much as possible. They're actually, I've seen some forecasts of some agencies trying to project up to 30%. Again, these are very specialized. They're not for everything. You can't do an operational infrastructure sustainment type of activity there are ways you can, but they get very difficult and complex. So it's not for every requirement. But if it's new, it's something to me that I think would go through uh, these processes to execute. So you're going to see a lot of the agencies get pushed. They put things out to stating that starting in March, agencies are going to start being graded on how many OTAs, CSOs they pushed out. One of the reasons why they're doing this is they've identified that commercial capabilities that are out in the community and industry, they want to do those first. That is priority one for the Department of War across all the agencies is they need to try commercial capabilities first, not try to redevelop it, spend money for years and years and something that maybe could be leveraged outside. The government from the Department of War perspective wants to get out of the business of constantly building everything from scratch and do more of take this commercial capability, tweak it, fix it, and get it out the door quicker to the warfighter as soon as possible. So I have seen over even the last month or two, even though it's not fully implemented, where we've seen contracts that have been out there for the last year, and all of a sudden it's going through an RFI process and being asked for three RFIs. And the reason, if you don't understand what's happening inside the government, is because in order for a contract to go through the process, they have to fill out paperwork to actually specifically state commercial capabilities cannot satisfy this requirement. That used to be a rubber stamp. In general, right? It was pretty easy. Write a couple paragraphs. If you do some research, write it up, be rubber stamped, and there you go. It is not being rubber stamped anymore. So if you start seeing why are they asking for these RFIs? Why did they ask for three? It's because the leadership or the folks who are working those contracts are struggling to get approval in order to execute that solicitation out the door because no one's accepting that commercial couldn't do that requirement. I've already seen a bunch of that happening on a couple different agencies. So these are some of the things you'll start seeing. But in overall, though, in general, the goal here is to accelerate contract agreements out the door. OTA CSO agreements are less stringent. And I'll talk about that in a second. A lot less paperwork. But as you can imagine, KOs, contract representatives, have challenges to execute from a perspective of a trust factor. They have to trust that their program manager and so mission owners are going to execute appropriately because they could be manipulated as well and not done the right way. So there's things going on that I'm going to recommend to folks to do, but you will see execution of these more fluently. You can even do a search in the last probably 30, 60 days. And you can see, wow, why is the Air Force just put out a new OTA? Why are they you can see a bunch of stuff coming out already just over the last couple of months. Next slide. So just give me a second. So I'm going to go over a little bit. The process itself in general is the same. But I will tell you, every agency does it a little bit different. They have their nuances. There are standards and regulations that they have to this, but they are very flexible. And you'll see that where some people have already probably submitted things like through SIBRs and other things that are out there. That's a form of an OTA. Everyone has done flavors to it, but in general, what it really involves is you'll see that a agency will put out either a general need that's out there all the time, and or they will call out usually to CSO, or they'll push out a specific problem set, and those are usually very very detailed, not very long, but detailed, and they have timelines to them. They may only give you 5 or 7 days to respond. So it's very important to watch and see and obviously engage what's out there, what's going on. So as you go through this and know that this has happened when a problem statement's out there, part of the process is obviously every company needs to start looking at what ideas do we have in need that we can satisfy these needs for and support these needs, and then be able to submit them within the process that they ask for. Every agency is different. Sometimes it's a 2-page white paper, sometimes a 5-page white paper. I've seen 3-page white paper. I've seen the quad charts. So they vary. right? But usually that front end is very simple. Just give me your idea, give me what's more efficient. Why is it efficient? Who's it going to be important to? Is it going to save me money? Is it going to be, why they want to do this? And it's going to be innovative. You can't go in and write a white paper and say, hey, this problem just needs more people. Give me a surge of 10 people. From a sustainment perspective, from an operations perspective, it's going to be hard. The mission owner may try to do it, but getting it through the KO will be difficult to get that approval. You need to show that it's new.
Brenda, you're on mute. I think we just lost
I
a
think,
little bit of
yeah, we
connection.
just lost Daniel, so bear
But
with
there's
him. He
ways.
has been, so Daniel, your internet just stopped, froze a second. So if you could kind of like go back a minute and pick up where you left off, that would be great. Thank you. Just bear with us one moment while Daniel gets through his internet problems, please. It's been a wonderful presentation so far. It's amazing what we've learned about OTAs, CSOs, and BAAs. It looks like Daniel dropped and he'll try to get back on. So just bear with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Melissa, our Vice Chair of Programs, will be going over all of your questions after Daniel finishes his presentation.
There was one question, Brenda, while we're waiting for him to get back on. Do you guys send out the presentation copies, or do you just refer to the recordings?
We refer to the recordings. We will have the recording up on our YouTube channel shortly. Usually it takes about an hour or two after the presentation. Yes, we can hear you, Daniel. And if you would like to go ahead, and the floor is yours.
So can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start talking again if you guys can hear me.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you so much. So through the process of the slides that I have up, the white paper, obviously working with mission and mission ownership, you can obviously, you're more likely to get it through the process, get it approved, to get funding through it. More mission involved, the better. What will happen then is what you'll end up doing is you will get they'll call it different. It could be they might ask you for a technical volume write-up. I've seen 30 pages, which I think is defeating of the purpose of an OTA. But then you'll most likely you'll be asked to do a pitch, and they'll ask you to do more paperwork, not too much more, 5 pages, maybe 10, more details to what you're trying to do here. And then what they'll do is they'll bring you in for a meeting with the KO mission owner. You'll go through it. They'll start asking you questions, based on some of the requirements. If you need hardware, you need software licenses, you need, any specific accesses to things. They will work that with you if they really. So one of the things I've heard companies, discuss is, well, we have to bring our own hardware, we have to bring our own software. It's kind of defeating. That costs money, so forth. I would never not submit a paper because of that. I've seen in the negotiations that if the mission wants it, they will work with you on that. Some won't. It just depends on how stringent that KO is. But I would never not submit one because you have that potential issue. What'll happen is they'll do an agreement. It's very simple. Sometimes it'll be part of your paperwork will be there. They'll have some paperwork. I've seen 2-3 page letters written up, and then that's it. The KO and the company will sign. They will start the pilot and prototype. And then what happens there is the traditional way of doing business, going through the pilot, the monthly reports, evaluating performance metrics. The mission, this is where the important part is on the mission side, is trying to get making sure the pilot meets all the requirements that you set out to do, that it was successful, it answered the mail. Because if the mission is involved and they're working with you, they will have to complete a finalized report stating this. And then that's when they can say, hey, we need this. We need to go for to execute this. So we'll just start, we will work our 5-year contract. It doesn't have to be 5-year contract. It could be a 2-year, 3-year, X amount of dollars, but that's the max, up to 100 million, 5 years. But what is important is it's sole source. It is a fixed price contract. But again, be able to demonstrate your capability, your commercial capability, your idea, go through the process, and then potentially at the end, get a 5-year contract instead of having to go back, recompete through the process. So that in general, you'll see there are many OTs out there, CSOs. They'll do it a little bit slightly different. Some have phases. They'll have a phase 1, like I know the VA even has one, that the first phase is up to 2 million, second phase is 4, third phase is 6. Some just have it open-ended. I will tell you from my experience of OTAs and CSOs, you want to keep the funding down to a minimal level, unless obviously you're working in military equipment type of thing where you're building a test submarine or ship type of things. Those things do go through an OTA, and you'll see the military has a lot of them out there. But from a IT day-to-day mission perspective, intel, across VAs, helping veterans, Treasury Department, all those type of most of the work that they do, mostly probably want to see it no more than a year. Again, trying to be urgent, trying to show quickly that what you're demonstrating, and probably no more than $1 million, but obviously that varies, right? So those were the more often ones that I've seen. I'll give you a couple examples. When I was working at DIA, we did a pilot for Tableau. It was only $250K, demonstrated with a tool called Crate that we had for all this data, and people loved it. And then all of a sudden, it's still in the agency across and working enterprise license agreements. So then you saw ServiceNow was kind of started through an OT. There's a capability called Rhombus. All these capabilities can start from an OT type perspective and actually help you, help get through typically a rigorous and bureaucratic process a lot faster, which is why the DOW is very high on and directing the agencies to do this. Next slide. So how do you, as a warfighter acquisition system, how do you as a company, how do you as a government expert in this process kind of get on board and start leveraging and start trying to help improve business while the government is trying to execute more capabilities? Obviously, I will tell you that when we did our OT and BAAs in 2016, the biggest challenge we had was leadership, management, KOs, workforce, you name it, just needed to buy in. Some did, a lot didn't. They had good reasons why the KOs didn't like it, but it's just a mechanism that in order for this to work, you're going to see, and I see it even as they go through, that's why they're trying to put grades in, to try to enforce leadership and management to make this, government agencies leverage these OTs, is to grade them and start hitting them on funding that they're going to get, right? Or they're just going to struggle to get through the funding that the contracts that they want to execute, which I've already seen happen. So there's got to be buy-in on both ends. Education, what OTAs are, processes, mandatory training. I would designate experts to each of the different sections for contracts. I would actually say that for the company as well. Commercial projects, products, and known problem statements. I will say this on the commercial side, especially large business. This to me is a very good mechanism for small to mid-size companies. Large companies may struggle a little bit. There's still avenues that they can get business growth here significantly. But what the problem they have is a lot of large companies, as we all experienced and worked in, is you work in a certain sector and you act as your own other company. And so you don't know what's going on across the company, what commercial capabilities they have. And, an IC agency might be looking for an audit situation capability, while your company is already providing this to the Treasury Department and could easily deliver this to an OTA that's already created, already being worked in the federal government. Why can't you agency use this as well? right, and be faster, get it up and running. But the problem is these agencies, these companies do not have a full spectrum of all their products they have. So definitely companies need to get a handle on what all the products they have across the board. Obviously, develop white papers, prepare, you got a lot of the companies have the smart folks in here who understand what's going on the ground level to solve problems. This is the way to get those problems met and supported. Obviously, government representatives, as I talked about, companies need to start looking at and tracking and monitoring all the OTAs that are out there. There are a lot, but not all of them will be for you. Not all of them will be but you need to track them because things come out fast and will disappear quickly. So you need to be proactive in that manner to look to try to deliver and get your capability through the process. That's one of the things myself and my company helps small businesses, so forth, help them monitor, see what's out there, provide them suggestions on how to leverage these CSOs. And I will tell you, we've seen increases now in the last couple of months. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see over the next 3 years, significant amount of capabilities, ideas, problems come out through these OTAs, through the direction of what the Department of War is directing right now. And you can just do basic searches and find this on internet that this is happening today. I can see it working, obviously, within the industry of, just seeing what's going on. Next slide. So there's a lot of them out there, right? So I'm just giving you a little flavor here to show you, and they all have different mission flavors. They all have some working really well where you might have an OTA that's very specific, like it might be all about artificial intelligence. It might be about aerospace. It might all be about drones. Then you'll have some that are very generic, that are open-ended, so forth. And that's why you start seeing each agency, each individual organizations might have their own OTA. And you can see, like Air Force, they have 14 CSOs, and they just created a new one like 3 weeks ago, right? So you're going to see these all starting to pop up. Different agencies will have multiple. The IC they usually only have one for generic. I think I could start seeing them, if they're proactive enough, to have multiple out there per either organization or per mission areas. But just to give you a flavor, there's a lot out there, right? We see them, you get pushed them, but you're going to see more and more pop up. This is one of the things that I do as my company, is kind of track them and try to give companies ideas of how to leverage them. Hey, here's an OTA that came out, you do this work, you might want to submit this, and then we help them with the white paper and so forth. So next slide. So in general, the OTA, CSOs, and how they work, and what we do, from my experience of working on both sides, running an OTA, CSO, we actually help companies do business development, develop strategies and implementation plans. We help start, we help start developing a plan for OTA, CSOs, BSOs. What are the things that you do in your company that we can tack to? Hey, here's 10 OTAs that we should focus on. And then that's what we focus on for the year that come out. We keep aware of what's going on in others. But again, there's so many out there. It's very hard to look at all of them. You want to be the ones that, kind of more fit your mission statement and your capability statement. We start documenting all the stuff that's out there. We also start, one of the things, we reach out to other companies, become partners for OT, CSOs, and even contract themselves. I will tell you, being on many SSEP board members and leading boards over the past 20 some odd years when I was at DIA and Air Force, and I did some for Army and NRO, I will tell you, there are many times that I looked at the proposals and said, man, I wish this company A and company C would have joined, because that would have been perfect. But I can't do that. And obviously, and no one of those two did not win the proposal, right? There was a third because they had more of a complete overall, but it happens all the time. And so one of the things we do through our experience and knowing companies is we try to bring other companies within solicitation saying, you're missing this part and this part, but here's two companies that can help, make them part of your team, and you'll have more of a 100% solution for the government to potentially improve your chances of winning that solicitation. So obviously we do white paper support. We reach out to members of the government to get them prepared, understanding what their problem sets are, and start helping, companies start leveraging and start including OTs, CSOs in their business strategy. They have to do that going at least for the next 3 years. There are waves. So I will tell you, for OT CSOs, there are very much waves. In 2015, 16, when DIUX started this, it started on an incline. I will tell you, in the last administration, and when I was working at DIA at the end, you couldn't say the word DIUX. It was kind of a hot button, kind of not a negative, but a challenge. There were conflicts in senior leadership that they were going to even stay around. So we were being pushed to kind of, basically slow roll that and see what happens. And now you have a new administration, and they're like, nope, not only DIUX, is not going anywhere. Now they've improved them, increased their significance of what they're doing, and now what they've been projecting and wanting the government to do since 2016, 17 is now a driving factor what the government's doing. So at least over the next 3 years, you're going to see a significant amount of problem statements, contract awards going out via OTAs, CSOs, BAAs. So, and I will tell you, internally, one of the things I do to help other companies when they ask is I internally know which agencies are really good at it and which ones are not. And which ones are not, I try to gauge, hey, let's not waste your time here. Let's focus on this for now. Obviously, still want to support white paper and so forth, but there are a bunch of agencies that still have to pick it up over this next 3 to 6 months to see how they go through, to start seeing how much they improve on their OTA and CSO projects. So that's one thing we help do. The other, this is a little bit unique, and it's kind of, something that I know companies have liked over the last 18 months, and that is evaluation. So me being on many source selection and evaluation boards over the last 20 some odd years, I will tell you, working on the front end when I started doing proposals back in 1999 to working proposals over the last 3 years after I left the government doing government evaluations, I will tell you the evaluation portion of the proposal process to me is a weakness in most proposal processes that I've seen that people do. And again, they're all focused on writing. A lot of the people are doing the day-to-day job, and then this is a part-time job of writing the proposal. All those things play a factor. But when it comes to evaluation, usually I've seen the writers actually be an evaluator. I've seen most of the time they will bring on either an SES or a senior that have never sat on an SSEB. And most of the feedback they get are happy to glad, make grammar changes, so forth, but not functionally to improve the actual grade of your actual proposal. So what we do is through the pink, red, gold team process, we actually produce a package for the writing team through the process of showing them, based upon obviously section M of the solicitation, we will say, listen, you got 3 factors here, obviously. We will document exactly what the government will do. We'll document all the strengths, weaknesses, deficiencies, risks, everything that they're going to do, we do. And then it's the same, some of these are 50 pages long, but then what we also do is provide recommendations to say, you know what, this is only a good, if you want to get outstanding, do these 10 different things. And then we help the proposal team, kind of write that. But if you think about it, I look at it as what we provide to governments during their solicitation process is what you kind of did in elementary school at times, where you had a teacher that would allow you to grade a test, give it back to you and say you have another chance, and give it back to her afterwards. The odds are you got a better grade the second time. So our goal here is to help companies go through this process, but do a real evaluation, just like the government's going to do. And you can see it. It's documented exactly how they're going to grade it within section M and what they're going to provide to the source selection authority as they submit a package to them to make the decision. I mean, remember, the SSEB doesn't make the decision. They may provide a recommendation, but in reality, all they're doing is documenting everything they're seeing across the different sections of whatever the PWS and section M states. They're providing all the details of what they found going forward. So, and that's what we do for companies. People really liked it. I will tell you, there is no AI capability that comes close to this. I've evaluated about 20 to 25 capabilities, and the evaluation pieces are usually, they grade it themselves. It's a random 1 through 10. It's, nothing to do any close to what an evaluation would look like on the SSEB side. Most of the time I get, well, we can't do that. We only do for the commercial side of the house and so forth. So just let you know, this is something that is available that we do, and people liked it and so forth as part of going forward, that companies never seen before. And we've been doing it for so long, so we're able to provide that too. And we help, most of the comments that we've gotten from writing teams have been, we've never seen feedback like this ever before within our evaluation to really help us improve that grade. So, so with OT, I hope with the next slide, just as my information, how you can reach out to me, LinkedIn, phone numbers, email, text, website, probably, the rest. But just in general, just to let you know, hopefully what you got out of here is, one, OTAs is something that we have to, companies and the government, personnel, experts, acquisition, are going to go through a major reform here, starting, they've already started, but even more and more here as regulations and standards start getting pushed as they're writing it. And they've directed that commercial comes first capabilities, and they're recommending all those type of capabilities and so forth be pushed through OTAs and CSOs. So, and agencies are going to start being graded on how many OTAs they're submitting out, right? And so you can see activities happening now more and more. Obviously, some agencies are going to be slower than others, but just letting you know, just hope what you got out of here is that, and knowing from a company perspective and a business perspective and a proposal manager perspective and so forth is, and when you work with your clients or companies and companies working this, they really need to start making this a conscious priority to how are they going to support OTAs and CSOs, because these are opportunities that are going to have a lot of money come through that you just cannot ignore, right? Just like, as we move forward, there are companies every day, every week are getting an award based upon an OT that they've done, a successful OT. So hopefully you got that out of it. You can reach me and my company if you need any other help on business development, support, working OT, SSEB solicitation, so forth. And just overall, hopefully any questions, but I apologize for the internet. It came back up while we were talking. Just apologize for the communication issues, but hopefully you got something valuable out of here.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We really appreciate it. And we've all been there with our internet issues. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Chair of Programs, Melissa Shoemaker, because she has been collecting questions from chat and she has some from the board too. So take away, Melissa. Thank you.
I have. Thank you so much, Brenda. And thank you, Daniel. That was so informative. And I think everyone learned something from all of your experience and education that you shared. There were several questions from the chat. I'll kind of start with them and then I'll open the floor up if anybody had any additional questions. One was, we do cybersecurity, but more as a supportive role. We don't develop new technology or anything exciting like that. Is there a place in OTAs for us, or are OTAs more for innovative companies?
I will say it is designed for more innovative companies, but then I will also switch this around a little bit. Yes, you might be involved in cybersecurity or any of those areas that might not, be kind of leaning towards this. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. But I will tell you, though, there's always ways in any mission area, so forth, that you can come up with trying to do new things. And I get not the technology piece is easy, but I've even in the last month submitted a policy innovation, right? How to change policy to make it more innovative. That a certain process that they were going through that I thought the existing one was just completely outdated and so forth. Might not need a lot of money, but at least helps the organization move. So yes, they are going to be limited. Sorry to say, this is geared towards innovation, new ideas, new capabilities. Now there are sophistication portions of OTAs that they can do more sustainment efforts. I will tell you, majority of the organizations stay far, far away from that because they are a little bit more trickier, a little more harder to deal with, and harder to get approved through the acquisition process. That portion might change. So that's something, I mean, we're just seeing the start of this with the stand up of the Department of War. You might start seeing some changes with that, those type of sections and those type of areas where they'll allow more quicker, faster agreements for sustainment efforts. Like I said, there are ways to do that in CSOs, but it's going to be very hard to find areas, mission areas that are willing to do that, right? Even DIUX, who is kind of out in front of this, they started one, they probably do more. And what I could do is I might take that question up and reach out to DIUX and see if they've uncovered any new techniques and ways to be able to support that.
That's great. Thank you so much. The next question is, how often do OTAs involve an oral presentation? And if they do, are there any differences between a traditional FAR-based oral requirement?
Oh yeah. So one, yes, huge difference between the traditional FAR oral versus an OTA. So again, every OTA is different. There are some OTAs that don't do an oral at all, but most are doing it. And I'll say this because remember, when you submit that first 2 or 3 or 5 page web paper, it's only kind of an introduction. You know, I mean, in 2 pages, you can't really say much, right? So in most, the ones that I've experienced at DIUX and experienced at DIA and I experienced one in a row, they were more of, hey, come in, tell us what you have, and let our mission owners ask all the questions, right? And then you would have the KO there ask maybe 1 or 2 questions about, the funding side, how can you handle, are you set up correctly, those type of things, because some of these companies are really small, right, and have never done business with the government before. So think of that pitch meeting is really just an advancement of that white paper to show, and they will, usually the pitch, they'll tell you what to do. Some are papers. They'll probably ask you for a couple slides for a brief. They'll definitely ask you for a quad chart. You'll see a lot of people ask for quad charts, which are the traditional, mission requirements, timelines, cost, those type of items. But you will see, but from a traditional one, traditional orals are very more complicated, sophisticated, more detailed. I mean, they're literally evaluating every word you say. This is more, I would look at this as more of a second portion of a fact finding for mission and for mission to ask questions. And I'll tell you, every pitch meeting I was in, at the end of it, the mission owner pretty much could tell or knew, hey, they're going to do this. Or, you know what, they weren't getting it. I don't think we're going to be picked to go forward. And then usually what will happen is the KO will follow up with maybe additional information, maybe, and then they will tell you, okay, mission owner wants to do this, and we're going to start documenting, an agreement. And all the paperwork that you've already submitted and asked, like I said, some OTs, CSOs, they kind of ask for, like I said, there was one that I saw ask for a 30-page technical white page, volume, like a traditional contract, and I kind of roll my eyes at that because that kind of defeats the purpose. But again, every agency does it a little bit different. Most do include that oral, but don't take it as a oral like a traditional. Take it as it's more of a discovery. And I think it's a better way of doing it because, when you do the oral, you're obviously intense, everything's very strict, what you state, so forth. This is, again, more of a fact finding. Mission wants to find out, really, can they leverage and do this, right? That's how I would say the differences are the 2.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big difference for everybody that's used to the traditional way.
Yeah.
Last question.
I would not be.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was just going to say, I know a lot of people are scared of the orals of the traditional, right? And they're becoming more popular as we go. Never be fear of a pitch meeting. I mean, If you know a commercial capability, and remember, it's your commercial capability, it's your idea. No one knows it better than you. They're just trying to figure out, can we really use it to solve this problem?
Yeah, that's great. That's great insights. Thank you so much. The last question from the chat is, what's the best way to educate ourselves about the OTA CSO processes? Like, is there a suggested website that everyone should go to kind of get educated?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will tell you, from a government perspective, people ask me that, and you always go to DAU, university, and so forth. Those were the worst virtual classes that I've ever taken on OTAs. So definitely, if you're in the government side, do not take those. They don't really help you much. I will tell you, a lot of it now you can just read. Go to Google, search, read. There's a lot out there. Maybe I can follow up to the message. There are a couple YouTube videos of some other organizations that have detailed this. Maybe it's something that my company takes on and does a detailed video of all this as well. We can look to do that. But there's a lot out there. But the problem is, a lot of people have. So one of the different perspective I bring is, again, I've submitted white papers, got things approved, but I've also been on that side of approving white papers, creating problems, and actually creating the CSO for an agency. And, learning the basics of the process and so forth is really all I think you really need to know to get through. You want to spend most of your time on, within your company or within your mission area, try to, what does it mean? Some of these companies and have the best and the brightest people that know what's going on. What are their ideas? And be able to put that in a paper and get it through and work the process, right? It's not overly complicated of a white page, quad chart, and trying to basically sell your idea to solve a problem. And to me, my personal opinion, I would focus more on that side than worrying about, the great details of an OTA and trying to learn consortiums to OTAs and that type of stuff. Worry about the problems, get that right. And that's one of the things we help companies also identify. There's so many out there that you have to kind of hunt and peck and find. And that's one of the things we do. I have a database of over 175 OTAs, BAs, and so forth with their mission statements and so forth. So I know of, hey, if you're looking for an artificial intelligence, if you have that type of capability, I'll say, hey, go to these 15, and here's how these 15 work, and then work with you on the white paper. And that's kind of how we do it on our end, the support.
That's really great, Daniel. We thank you so much for this presentation. It will be up in YouTube no later than this evening. And we thank you. And please join us for our virtual lunch on February 11th. We'd love to have you there. Be a great time. And thank you, Melissa and Daniel. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Again, sorry for the conference.